Welcome to Doctor's Homestead. My name is Daniel. I want to talk about bushcraft. We're getting into bushcraft today. Got two great bushcraft books by Dave Canterbury, Bushcraft Essentials Field Guide and Bushcraft Field Guide to Trapping, Gathering, and Cooking in the Wild. So we have spoken about the Bushcraft Essentials Field Guide before, and this is a wide range of bushcrafting outdoor survival skills, things like survival priorities, firecraft, self-aid, emergency shelter, navigation, signaling, pioneering, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to hit that one today. I want to mostly lean into the Bushcraft Field Guide to Trapping, Gathering, and Cooking. A lot of information, huge book. We're going to kind of go through it chapter by chapter. This is entirely focused on food, which from a bushcraft perspective is important. Once you've got your shelter, you've got your creek, you've got your source of water, you're going to need food. You're going to need food all the time. More food you have, the longer you're going to be able to survive. So it makes sense to have a focus entirely on food acquisition, and whatnot. So we're gonna go through it here. We're gonna go through it chapter by chapter and kind of talk through it. So chapter 1, part 1, it's split into 4 parts. Part 1, packed in foods. So those are the foods you're going to take with you if you're going out into the woods, going out into the wild to like camping, whatever you're doing, survive as long as you can, just have a vacation, whatever it is, you're going to take food with you. So packed in foods are the foods you're bringing with you. So chapter 1 is deciding what to bring. Cutting tools, fire-making devices, cover, container, cordage, nutritional needs, water. It covers a wide range. And nutritional needs is an interesting section because it points out, right, you can have trap wire, you can have all the tools you need for food acquisition and skills. But if the food's just not there, that's not going to do you a lot of good, right? There's not always food to be had everywhere all the time in abundance. So when you talk about nutritional needs, it's probably a good idea to be realistic about what's there, what kind of food you can get, and you're probably going to want to bring a little bit with you if you can. Even if you're an expert survivalist, having a little food with you is not a bad idea. Nutritional needs, and of course water, right? You need water every day. Chapter 2. Foods that require minimal processing, things like trail mixes and snacks, things once again you can bring with you, and they have recipes and suggestions and not in chapter 2. Chapter 3, whole foods that don't require refrigeration. Once again, more on foods you can bring in with you, things like vegetables and whatnot. You're going to need food, right? And this book is focused on food. We're all talking about food here on this one. Chapter 4, supplemental food stuff, and it's interesting. It's got a recipe for cowboy coffee, which is water plus coffee grounds. You just dump the coffee grounds in the water, you boil it, you let the coffee grounds settle, you drink it. I've done the instant coffee. I'll do the instant coffee in a bottle of water. Not a bad way to go. I haven't done a lot of cowboy coffee, but I guess if that's all you have, the coffee grounds, I would do it, right? So then it takes you into part 2, bushcraft cooking. Once again, it's a bushcraft book. Cooking in the wild, and they bring up a chuck box, which I thought was pretty cool, the idea of a chuck box, which is an outdoor kitchen kit. So you're going to want to have a kit, you're going to want to have a box, keep all your stuff separate, keep the animals out of it. So you take your chuck box, talks about the stuff you might want in the chuck box. Chapter 6 is all about building a fire, which is important if you got food. If you want to sterilize your water, boil your water, you need a fire, and it talks through it, gives some good information, good ideas on building a fire. Chapter 7, tools and utensils. It talks about things like single pot. Do you need to bring 16 pots and pans? Probably a single pot. Basic equipment, just bring the basics for cooking, especially if you got to carry it. And then chapter 8 is improvised tools, like making cutting boards, making your own utensils, all the wood carving, stuff you can do when you're there that you don't necessarily need to bring with you. Chapter 9, quick brush tools. So it's, once again, it's cooking, right? It's mostly around food, but things like galley poles, tripods, pot crane, all the different little kind of kitchen type, outdoor kitchen gadgets you'd want that you can make using sticks and logs and all that kind of stuff. Chapter 10, types of cooking, talking about frying, boiling, all that kind of stuff. So then you get to part 3, living off the land. right? And certainly if you're a survivalist, if that's your dream is someday go live off the land, this is a good book to get into, and I would hit any of them, right? This is a good book to get into, any of these bushcraft books. The man knows his stuff, Dave Canterbury. He knows his bushcraft, right? So living off the land, hunting, trapping, covers stuff like locating animals, animal behavior, animal sign, right? And then chapter 12, hunting beyond the basics. It's your firearms, reloading, right? Chapter 13, trapping beyond the basics, talks about water traps, primitive traps, bird traps, all sorts of different traps. And there's good little diagrams and whatnot. Open right to that section on the traps. You've got your deadfall traps, all the different traps, all the different diagrams. This is a good book to have in paperback, right? You wouldn't want this electronic. You put it in your pack. You could take it with you. It's not that heavy. Chapter 14, butchering game, tools and process, right? I mean, we process our own animals here. If you've never done it before, something like a book, you got to start somewhere. A book's not a bad idea. We have a whole old school butchering book that we use, but having a book, understanding how to butcher game, tools and process. That's chapter 14. Chapter 15, catching fish and frogs. I'm not a frogs fan, but he goes into fishing equipment, frog fishing equipment, all the different kind of equipment you want to have packed in or improvised, right? Chapter 16, Dave's favorite recipes. He's got recipes in here. Chapter 17, preparing unconventional foods, and this is everyone's favorite. Insects you can eat and insects you shouldn't eat, right? I suppose that's important if you get to that point. Let's see if I get you in on that. The insects you can eat, the insects you shouldn't eat, they're all listed out in here. Apparently caterpillars are a big no-no. He doesn't like the arachnids, but I think you can. I think maybe you can, I don't know. Centipedes are a no. Anything brightly colored is a no. Don't eat insects with strong odors, and don't eat disease-carrying insects, mosquitoes and ticks. All good ideas. Don't bite the mosquito's back. And he's got tips and tricks. Every section has tips and tricks. A lot to learn about bushcrafting there. Foraging's important. You know, how to identify edible plants. Preserving, you know, and this is preserving in the field, preserving your meats and whatnot. Gets you to part 4, emergency cooking. This might have been my favorite part. Chapter 20, cooking with your engine. He's got a recipe for Buick burritos cooked on a hot radiator. Chapter 21, unconventional fuels, things like wood chips, animal fat, pine sap. He's got it all in there. Chapter 28, chapter 22, making a stove, rocket stove, Swedish fire torch, and then chapter 23 is solar cooking. So, you know, we always talk about prepping, survival is a mix of skills and stuff, and this is one spot. You can get the skills. This book was $16. I might actually got it for a little less. It seems like books are going cheaper, but $16 investment. You read through the book, you got, you know, animal tracks, right? You could study the book, you could practice these things in the book, and there's a lot of good survival skills. You can develop those skills. $20 if you actually learned and retained everything in this book. That's a pretty good deal, right? That's a lot of skill-based information. You got how to make a rock oven, right? In terms of survival skills or stuff. If you can't afford, if you don't have, if you don't want to need to depend on an endless pantry, endless solar power, anything else, you know, you get your skills. You learn how to make it yourself. You learn how to survive. People survived before civilization, before modern civilization, and any of its conveniences for a very long time, right? And that's skills. Those are the skills. There's your cage trap, making a bird trap. It's all in here, and there's a section about eating animals found dead, whether you should eat the ones you find dead or not, and that's certainly a situation you could find yourself in, right? And there's more, always recipes, lots of recipes. Fried potatoes and squirrel, Dutch oven raccoon, rabbit stew, lots of good recipes, possum roast, and glazed pheasant, right? So this is skills, right? We're offering skills here. I would start with maybe just the Bushcraft Essentials Field Guide. As I said, this covers your C's. You know, we talk about the C's as survival. It's got all the C's in it. 5 survival priorities, 5 C's of survivability, cutting tools, combustion device, core elements, containers, and cordage. You got the 5 C's of sustainability, cotton material, cargo tape, compass, candle device, canvas, sail, needle. You got the 5 B's, you got the 5 shelter necessities. I mean, this is your overall, once again, if you're talking skills, if you want to develop those skills, these are not a bad place to start. You might be able to find it online. You might be able to find it at the library. How to tie knots, how to lash sticks together, right? You can build those skills. It just takes time. Whether you just read the book and try to absorb it, or whether you actually go out and try to do it, that depends on you, depends on your situation. But you want to build out your skills. You want to become more able to survive. That's not a bad place to do it. We talked about mental preparation before, and being able to rely on yourself is certainly a big part of mental preparation. So hope that helps out. As always, thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.